a court step to see me after I'm sleeping on the streets. I've been homeless for 4 years.
It used to be the class system. Homeless people used to be that person that you didn't know, that would talk to themselves, or that didn't bathe in the corner of a doorway, that everybody just walked by and overlooked.
We often think of survival as something that belongs in deep forests, on deserted islands, or in distant apocalyptic scenarios. But the harsher truth is this: survival may be unfolding right in the heart of crowded cities, where the lights never fully go out and the flow of people never truly stops. There, some individuals must learn to endure day by day without the shelter of a roof. Not with expensive gear, not with glamorous theory, but with sharp observation, adaptive thinking, and a quiet, persistent willpower. The Homeless Fact was created to tell stories like these, honest, unembellished, free from sensationalism, not to exploit tragedy, but to face reality together and draw the deepest lessons about survival. Because sometimes, the most critical skill is not battling nature, but understanding and navigating the social environment around us. If you find value in this content, gently press like to support the Homeless Fact. Subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might make this conversation far more meaningful than you realize. Survival in the urban core. The unmentioned reality. While many still imagine survival as a story of wilderness or global catastrophe, the reality in major cities reveals a quieter form of endurance happening every single day. People experiencing homelessness are not waiting for the end of the world. For them, the emergency began long ago. Without long-term food reserves or secure shelters, they rely on observation and immediate adaptability to survive within a system defined by traffic, regulations, and constant surveillance. And this context raises a question. How do they maneuver within an environment that appears familiar, yet is filled with risk? In many urban centers, the first strategy is not finding food. It is learning to read the city's invisible map. Where are the public restrooms? Which water fountains still function? Which areas receive fewer patrols at night? When do security shifts change? All of this becomes life-saving data. The city is no longer buildings and roads, but a network of resources memorized through experience. Only by understanding this map can the next move be calculated carefully. Yet space alone is not enough. Timing is equally critical. Urban rhythms shift by the hour. Crowded mornings, scattered afternoons, intensified patrols in certain areas at night. Those living outside learn to move with that rhythm, avoiding visibility where attention is risky, choosing rest when exposure is lowest. Survival, in this sense, is not impulsive. It is a sequence of deliberate decisions measured hour by hour. Beyond space and time, the most unpredictable variable is people. Danger does not come only from harsh weather, but from conflict, prejudice, and competition over limited resources. Many adopt a strategy of invisibility, neutral clothing, ordinary behavior, avoiding prolonged eye contact. The goal is not to stand out. It is to minimize risk. A night without a roof. When the city lights up, many people return home. Doors lock, lights fade. But for someone without shelter, the night is only beginning. It is the longest, coldest, and loneliest stretch of the day. not simply because of thin blankets, but because of the absence of safety. You do not sleep deeply. You drift in and out, ears alert to every footstep, every unfamiliar sound beyond a window or around a corner. The cold is not only about temperature. It lives in the concrete that draws heat from the body, in the damp air slipping through narrow gaps, in the awareness of how small your body feels in a vast, open space. Many learn to stay warm with layered, worn clothing, flattened cardboard beneath their backs, wind-shielded corners chosen with care. These are not clever survival tricks. They are sincere efforts to keep from shivering through the night. But cold is not the most exhausting part. Constant vigilance is. You cannot sleep as you would behind a locked door. Every sound might mean trouble. Sometimes it is security asking you to move along. Sometimes it is a stranger seeking confrontation. Sometimes it is fear itself, built from too many past expulsions. There are nights so long that hours are no longer counted. Time is measured by streetlights switching off, by garbage trucks rumbling past, by the sky shifting slowly from black to gray. Dawn is not merely a moment. It is proof that you have survived another night. Still there, still breathing, still given another chance to try again. What few people see is that even in that darkness, small lights remain. Someone sharing a wind-sheltered seat. A cafe worker quietly hands over a cup of hot tea. A message from a loved one. Small gestures, yet enough to keep someone from collapsing entirely. For a person without shelter, the night is not romantic. It is a test of body temperature, of nerves, of dignity. Preserving dignity. Losing a home does not mean losing self-respect. Yet in a crowded city, preserving dignity each day becomes a silent battle. No one wants to be seen through the eyes of pity or suspicion. So many homeless individuals strive to appear as normal as possible. Clean clothes if they can still be washed, tidy hair, calm behavior in public spaces. Hygiene becomes far more important than outsiders might imagine. A public restroom, a faucet behind a supermarket, a support center with showers. These are not merely places to clean the body, but ways to protect opportunity. Because appearing too unkempt can instantly close the door to a temporary job or even entry into a store. Identification documents are guarded like treasures. Losing them means nearly disappearing from the social system. No ID, no bank account, no employment contract. Many will skip a meal if necessary, yet still find a way to protect their thin wallet. The most painful thing is not the lack of money, but the feeling of being treated as if one does not exist. Strategies for managing energy and relationships. Exhaustion does not come only from lack of sleep. It comes from constant defense, protecting belongings, searching for safe places, avoiding risk, and staying alert against violence. For a homeless person, energy is the most valuable asset. They cannot afford to waste it on pointless conflict. The first strategy, therefore, is choosing which battles to fight, avoiding arguments, steering clear of dangerous areas, and keeping a distance from unstable groups. The second strategy is preserving a minimal daily rhythm. Short but regular sleep. Eating whenever possible but not skipping meals. Maintaining personal cleanliness as much as circumstances allow to preserve dignity and job prospects. Many set alarms just to wake up early to line up for food or use public restrooms before the crowds arrive. This small discipline allows them to retain a measure of control amid chaos. Social relationships are managed like resources. Not everyone is a friend. Some connections exist only for exchanging information, where food is distributed, where blankets are handed out, and where it is safe to sleep. Others are temporary alliances watching each other's belongings, warning of danger. But boundaries must remain clear. Excessive emotional dependence can lead to conflict, and conflict means loss of safety. The most important point, they learn not to let one bad day collapse an entire week. If today brings rejection, tomorrow must still continue. Managing energy means accepting small losses to avoid total breakdown. The art of seizing opportunity. For the homeless, opportunity does not arrive as a promise. It comes as a form, a phone call, or an interview appointment. Those who are more prepared hold the advantage. The first art, therefore, is safeguarding identification documents. Without a national ID card, there is no bank account, no job application. Many keep their papers in waterproof pouches, strapped close to their bodies, never separated even while sleeping. Second is maintaining communication. A low-cost phone, a prepaid SIM card, and an active email address are bridges to the formal world. Phones are charged in cafes, libraries, and bus stations. Missing one call can mean losing a job. Sometimes a phone battery is nearly as important as a meal. Third is preparing for the interview moment. Keeping one set of clean clothes, knowing the address, arriving early, answering concisely. Not everyone succeeds, but those who prepare increase their probability. This is no longer a vague hope. It is probably improved through concrete action. And finally, keeping a clean record, avoiding legal violations, avoiding conflict, and avoiding impulsive decisions. A minor criminal record can permanently close doors that are already narrow. The art of seizing opportunity is, in truth, the art of minimizing long-term risk. The psychological traps of decline. The journey from having a home to having none rarely happens in a single day. It is a chain of descent. First comes job loss, then late rent, next comes borrowing, then family conflict, and finally, leaving the temporary shelter. Each step appears small, but together they create a devastating fall. The greatest trap is the psychology of postponement. Many believe that next month will be better, that a little more money will solve it. By the time they recognize the severity of the situation, their resources are already exhausted. The lesson here is not only for the homeless, but for anyone living close to the financial edge. The second trap is the loss of a sense of control. After repeated rejection, people easily slip into resignation. Once the belief forms that every effort is useless, action stops. And when action stops, opportunity disappears. The third trap is social shame. Many hesitate to seek help for fear of being judged. But delaying assistance only deepens the crisis. Silence can accelerate the speed of decline. The light remains, the turning point. If the previous chapters spoke about survival, opportunity, and traps, this chapter speaks about the turning point. Not a miracle, not wealth overnight, but the moment when the trajectory begins to change. Turning points often begin very small. A stable part-time job, an affordable room offered through a referral, someone willing to act as a guarantor. The difference does not lie in the size of the opportunity, but in whether the individual is prepared to hold on to it. Documents are intact. The phone still works. Daily discipline has been maintained. There are no legal complications. The seemingly small details from before now become the foundation. Yet one factor matters even more: restoring the sense of control. When a person realizes, I can influence part of the outcome, their actions begin to change. They plan by the week, not just by the day. They save their first amount of money, however small. They deliberately avoid environments that might pull them back down. This is also the most fragile phase because a single financial or health shock can reverse everything. Therefore, the light does not lie only within the individual. It also lies in the surrounding ecosystem. Timely support policies, a community that does not judge, and flexible employment opportunities. A society that creates more safety nets reduces the number of people in free fall. This ending is not a period, because the line between stability and instability always exists. but understanding the mechanisms, preparing for risk in advance, and acting early. That is how the light is sustained. May those without shelter find their own turning point. May each of us recognize that we do not stand outside that line. And if possible, may we become a point of support for someone else. Amen.